Okay, back to Ansible. We'll have multiple tasks in this role. First, in main.yml, we'll change the default name servers for our VPS. There's no particular reason to do that in our case. Everything works just fine with the default name servers. I'm just expanding on the previous video. Then, with the help of Ansible's include tasks module, we'll call these other tasks. We'll install additional packages on our system. We'll set up Crony as our scheduler, and we'll do some network related configuration. You can read all these descriptions if you want, but it comes down to this. We start with this main.yml in tasks. It can call these other tasks with the help of include tasks module, and each of those tasks can reference files from the files directory and can also trigger handlers. I'll now create the necessary directories for this role. So back in terminal in Ansible directory next to our existing hostname role, I'll create another one named essentials with subdirectories tasks, files and handlers. Okay. Before I create a first file for this role, let's check the current state of our DNS. I'll SSH to our VPS and check the output of etc_resolve.conf. It says here that this file is managed by systemd resolved, and it says not to edit this file directly. It also says that if you're looking at etc_resolve.conf, which we are, that we've followed a sim link. And if we check the output of file etc_resolve.conf, we can indeed see that it is a symbolic link. Since we know our DNS is managed by systemd resolved, the command to check DNS configuration is resolvectl. We can see name servers down here, and we can see that they match the output of etc_resolve.conf. We also see fallback DNS servers, and while you could probably spend an hour figuring out in which file these are defined, I'll save you the time and tell you that they're built into the systemd resolved. If your primary DNS servers are down or fail to resolve something, systemd resolved will use these name servers in this order: Cloudflare, Quad9 and Google DNS. But these name servers are not built into systemd resolved, so where are they defined? Now I must introduce you to systemd networkd, which is a system daemon that manages network configurations. There's a ton of information in the wiki, but for now everything we need to know is that systemd networkd keeps network interfaces configuration files in etc systemd network directory. There's a file here with eth0 in its name, and if we check the output of ip command, we can see that that is our interface. And if we check the contents of this file, we can see our DNS servers, which we saw with resolvectl command. What I want to do now is replace these default name servers and use Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 as the only default name server. How do I do that? If you check the comment at the top of this file, you will see that it is automatically generated on each boot, so editing it directly will not work, and that if you want to change it, you should follow these instructions. You can do that, or you can do the same thing I'll do, and that is make use of so-called drop-in files. You can go to ArchWiki entry about systemd. There's a section there about drop-in files. In short, a drop-in file is a new file which will be processed after the original one. In our case, this file here, 05eth0.network, and change existing or add additional settings. It's time to write the role. We'll start with main.yml in tasks subdirectory. This section will create a directory with the same name as our interface configuration file, adding a .d at the end. This is a convention for naming directories with additional configuration files. We are using a built-in file module for this. We are setting the owner, the group, and permissions. Note that permissions in numerical method should be quoted in Ansible, and you can check the link for more info. In the next section, we'll use the built-in copy module to copy our custom configuration file, which we will create in a second, to this newly created directory on the VPS. Again, I'm setting some file permissions, and then there is this backup parameter. On the first run, this will not do anything because this file is not yet present on the server. But in case we make some changes to it in the future, Ansible will create a backup of original file and then copy our new modified version. And finally, there is this notify module to restart systemd networkd so that this takes effect immediately. Remember that systemd networkd is a system daemon that manages network configuration. Restarting it will reload all network configuration files. There's two things missing in order for this to work. First, this source file, and second, this so-called handler. I'll first create the custom configuration file for our interface. I'll open the file in files and call it 01-custom.conf and paste my snippet. This double entry here is not an error. That's how you rewrite a section using drop-in files. First line will invalidate the configuration from original file, and the second line will add new custom configuration. Next thing is the handler. I'll open the main.yml in handlers subdirectory and paste my snippet. Using the built-in systemd module, this will restart the systemd networkd service. What's important is that this name here matches the name from where this handler is called. And if we check the main.yml in tasks subdirectory, we can see that it does match exactly. Ansible will run this handler if this section has made a change on the server. If this was already done in some previous Ansible runs and we didn't make any modifications, this will not make a change on the server and the handler will not be triggered. One last thing that is missing is adding this new role to our playbook entry point, the setup.yml. I'll open it in Vim and add a new row here. Remember that this must match the name you used for that role's directory name. Make sure that your virtual environment is activated and run Ansible playbook setup.yml. Playbook has finished and we can see that our previous role named hostname didn't make any changes. This OK here means that the state on the server matches the playbook. But our new role named essentials did make some changes. It created a new directory, it copied our custom configuration file, and since there was a change made on the server, a handler was triggered and it restarted the systemd networkd. If I go to the server now and run the resolve_ctl command again, I will see the 1.1.1.1 as the only primary name server, as defined in our custom configuration file. So, the things you need to remember from this section and probably read more about them are systemd networkd, which is a network configuration manager, systemd resolved, which is a service that provides network name resolution, and drop-in files for changing or adding configuration. Everything else is just an implementation detail.